Through this video, you are going to learn about Kumbhakarna, which would be quite opposite of what you have been told so far of Kumbhakarna, the younger brother of Ravana. In the process, you would also realize the level by which the history of India in general and of Tamils in particular had wantonly been destroyed by the Jewish Brahmins. We shall briefly narrate what the Jewish Brahmins had told of Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna was named so because of the pot-like ears that he seemed to have had. According to the Jewish Brahmins, Karna means ear and Kumbham means pot. Hence, Kumbhakarna means the one who had pot-like ears. But you would know that it is a nonsense if you consider the name Karna of Mahabharata. Mahabharata Karna had nothing to do with the ears, and the Brahmins never said that he was named after his ears. The Brahmins are experts in incidental etymology. If they want to fit any existing name to any new theory that they spin, then they would declare that name has such and such meaning without any reference or proof. This is what an incidental etymology is, a new terminology that I am coining on their behalf. We can now caught them red-handed through the word Karna. Karna was originally named so because of his hands, as Karna was portrayed as philanthropist. As we give alms through our hands, and as hand is called Karam in Tamil, he was called as Karanan, meaning the possessor of hands, that is, the possessor of helping hands. The word Karanan deformed to Karnan and Karna. Thus, Karnam doesn't mean ear, it is related to the hands. Thus, Kumbhakarna's name did not originate from his ears, but it actually originated from his hands like the way it originated for Karna. With that clue, let me proceed further. Kumbhakarna was the younger brother of Ravana, the Lankeshwara. He was a man of huge physique. He used to sleep continuously for 6 months. He would be awake for a day and eat everything in his vicinity and then start sleeping again for the next 6 months. As he is of a huge body, he consumed enormous amount of food. It is very difficult to wake him up from his sleep. This is what is told of Kumbhakarna according to Sanskrit Ramayana. The story that the Jewish Brahmins spin as the reason for his perennial sleep is so stupid and mischievous that even a drunkard won't blabber like this. Following Kumbhakarna's intense penance, when Brahma instructs him to ask for a boon, it seems that Saraswati went into the tongue of Kumbhakarna and made him to ask for perennial sleep. What a nonsense! Would Saraswati, the god of wisdom, would ever do such a mean act? How badly and disgustingly that these Jewish Brahmins depicted our gods is really terrible. Contrary to the description, you would soon realize the real unholistic dimension of Kumbhakarna. For the ancient man, that is, for the people before Shiva's times, there was no concept of God, and they did not have any word for God either. They feared natural calamities, but they never worshipped any God, as they were not aware of the concept of God itself. Those people were so naive that they were not only lacking in the concept of God, but also lacking in the consciousness about time, and it was Shiva who brought this consciousness for the first time, and hence he was called Kala Bhairava, meaning the light of time. Cave life, being hunted by animals, poisonous creatures, disease, accidents, and mass death due to natural calamities are the everyday problems that they faced. Hence, they realized that population growth alone would guarantee their safety in general. As the existing population in those times was very less, and as reproductive organs of the body is responsible for human resource, and as they realized that mating of man and woman leads to the birth of new offsprings, they created the mating image of the reproductive organs and pleaded in front of them to grant offsprings. As the reproductive organs yield new offsprings, and as E means yield in ancient Tamil, they call this composite object as Esan, the giver. Hence, the original name of Shivalingam was Esan, that is Isa. This is the very first object that ancient man could place his demand to, and hence we shall call this as his first god. This was the scenario before the times of Shiva, the Adinada, who came into existence approximately 20,000 years ago. He propounded a new philosophical interpretation to Shivalinga known as Isa in his times. He said that Isa is just not the reproductive organs alone and they stand symbolizing the dualistic existence of nature. Male, female, day, night, creation, destruction, pleasure, sorrow, this life, afterlife, etc. are the examples of the complementary duality of nature. We shall add electron proton in this list expressing the duality. Shiva said that this dualistic existence is pictorially portrayed by the composite object known as Esan in his times. As the then existing name Esan meant the giver, which does not express the duality concept that he attributed to this object, he coined a new name which verbally expressed the duality. That means the new name should be obviously built out of the names of the male and female parts of this composite object. He called the female part of this composite image as Shivam, meaning red, and the male part as Alangam, which meant part of male in Tamil. He then constructed a new dualistic name for this composite image by summing these individual names as Shivam plus Alangam, Sivalangam, Sivalingam. Hence, this composite image pictorially exhibits duality and the composite name Sivalingam verbally expresses the same duality. As Adinatha gave this new dualistic name, he was named Shiva using the first syllable of the name Sivalingam to preserve this history. For the same reason, Shiva himself is worshipped in the form of Sivalingam after his nirvana. In fact, Shiva is worshipped in 8 different forms which preserve the contributions that Shiva made for the humanity. As he propounded the duality concept, he is worshipped both as a god of creation as Sivalingam with white bull and as the god of destruction as Yama with black bull, the buffalo. His name Yama as the god of destruction was coined as follows. Shiva lived south of Lanka long ago, which later perished in a great deluge cataclysm. It was believed that God Shiva caused the destruction as man became immoral after his times, and hence Shiva was called the god of destruction. As his original abode was south of Lanka, and as Ya meant south, the destructive Shiva was called Yaman, the southern man. Next, as he declared that this universe originated out of the explosion of supernova with fire and thunder, and that the celestial bodies are constantly in motion, he is worshipped as Nataraja, the dancing Shiva. I had already talked about his contribution in developing the consciousness about time. Describing the other forms of Shiva is beyond the scope of this video. It was Muruga, the survivor of the deluge, who created the images and image worship as a way of pictorially preserving the history of Shiva. That's how the image worship started after the deluge. Following the deluge cataclysm, to preserve the rich arts and technologies of the Lemurian continent, the survivor Murugan felt the need to increase the population as quickly as possible. He took many measures to increase the population, and that's why he was called the god of fertility after his nirvana. In the process, he also created an abstract form of Sivalingam. The down-pointing triangle represented female sex organ and the up-pointing triangle represented the male sex organ. By placing them one over the other, we get the 6-pointed star, which is the abstract representation of Sivalingam. As a sidetrack, I am just getting an idea that the word sex should have originated from the word six, as the number 6 is linked to the star, which represents sexual union. Returning, as this abstract form has 6 faces, it was named Arumugam by Murugan, where Aru means 6 and Mugam means face in Tamil. To preserve the history that it was created by Murugan, he himself was called Arumugan after his nirvana. As the star fits into a hexagon, that is 6-sided and 6-angled shape, he was called Muvirikonan, which deformed to Murugan. Muvirikonan means the 6-angler. In another video, I would explain the purpose why Murugan created this star to represent Sivalingam. As I am translating the Tamil script into English, I am making an interesting discovery that the English word organ originated from the 6-pointed star that Murugan created. Aru plus konam, R plus cone, organ. Hence, the word Aru konam representing the 6 organs deformed to yield the word organ, representing not only the sex organs of the body but also any general organ of the body in English. Eason, the form worshipped by ancient people for population expansion, was extended as representing nature's duality, and the same was renamed as Shiva Lingam to verbally express the duality by Adinatha. And to preserve this history, Adinatha himself was called Shiva using the first syllable of Shiva Lingam. The same Shiva Lingam was represented by an abstract six-faced star called Arumugam, and as Murugan created this form, he was called Arumugan. Considering this history, in the course of time, had anyone else created any other object or shape to represent Shivalingam? Yes, indeed. Won't you be surprised if I say that there is indeed an object and it was created by Kumbhakarna? The third form representing Shivalingam was Kumbham. The bottom part of this Kumbham, the part, represents womb of the woman and hence represented Shakti. The water kept in this part represents the amniotic sac where the fetus grows into full baby. It is worth reminding that Ammani means woman in Tamil, and hence the word amniotic should have originated from Ammani. The coconut on top of this pot represents Shiva and hence a male. How does coconut represent Shiva? The coconut has 3 eyes and Shiva also has 3 eyes, the third of which represents the pineal gland, enabling the individual to gather the cosmic wisdom. This third eye was first realized by Shiva, and hence, to preserve this history, he is being depicted with 3 eyes. He realized the same through Kundalini Yoga that he developed, and to preserve this fact, he is being depicted with a snake, calling his snake, as snake represents Kundalini Yoga. The crown of this coconut represents the mated hair of Shiva. The water in the coconut represents the male sperm. The pot representing Shakti below and the coconut representing Shiva above, and this is indeed the alternate form of Shiva Lingam. It was Kumbhakarna who created this alternate representation for Shiva Lingam. In fact, he was named Kumbhakarna to preserve the fact that he created the object Kumbham representing Shiva Lingam. He was named as though he was the first person to be seen with the Kumbham in his hands. The meaning is that he was the creator of this object. Karam means hand in Tamil and Karanan means possessor of hands. Hence, Kumbhakaranan means the possessor of hands which carried or created the Kumbham. Mahabharat Karna performed arms through his hands and hence called Karanan, meaning the possessor of hands which gave arms. The meaning of both the names Karna and Kumbhakarna tallies, and hence this was the real origin of these names. Kumbham is a symbol of fertility and hence also the symbol of prosperity. Whoever the person that made this object should obviously be a yogi. This means Kumbhakarna was a yogi. How did he become a huge bodied person? He was like any normal person when he was young. It's because he had a wife of normal proportions and 2 sons named Kumbha and Nikumbha, also of normal proportions. After fathering his children, he raised Kundalini and tried to achieve Panchama Siddhi. We had established already that Indra achieved Panchama Siddhi for the first time and hence was called Indiran. Likewise, Kumbhakarna experimented with one of the 5 Siddhis called Mahimam. This Siddhi would make the practitioner grow very big in physical dimension. This Siddhi actually works by making the growth hormones to secrete again, thus leading to a huge body. If we continue to practice this Siddhi, we would grow bigger and bigger. That's how Kumbhakarna became such a huge person. Naturally, he could have had large physical strength and could have also consumed lots of food corresponding to his huge physique. To achieve this Siddhi, he should have been in long meditation. He was in fact in long meditation without food or sleep. The fact that he was in long meditation with closed eyes was deliberately misinterpreted as sleeping by the Jewish Brahmins. He was a person of huge body with a corresponding large physical strength. Hence, he should have used a huge bow and arrows, and his arrows should have had a very large range. Hence, he should have fought from a long distance from the enemies. The inference is that his enemy's arrows did not have enough power when they reached him, while his arrows pierced the enemies as they had very large power and range. This being the case, who could have won him in the war? It was simply not possible for anybody to win him in the war. In those times, many a people harnessed Mahimam Siddhi. We are aware of Mahabharat Bhima and his son Kadotkaja. The Mahimam Siddhi is not a reversible Siddhi. It is one-way traffic. We have seen that Indra's Lahimam Siddhi was reversible. He was capable of making himself either lighter or heavier at his will using his Lahimam Siddhi. On the other hand, Mahimam Siddhi was irreversible Siddhi. If we become once big, we remain big only. We cannot become small again. That is why Indra, who mastered all the 5 Siddhi, including Mahimam, just tested this Siddhi and stopped harnessing it further. In a nutshell, Kumbhakarna was the younger brother of Ravana. He harnessed Mahimam Siddhi using his meditative power and became huge-bodied. Without food and sleep, he spent long patches of time in deep meditation. He created Kumbham auspicious object representing Shivalingam. To preserve this fact, he was called Kumbhakarnan. This in short is the real identity of Kumbhakarna. You would realize that Kumbhakarna is not an ordinary person based on the fact that I am going to reveal. As he was a historically important personality, Vishnu, the astronomer who created the 12 zodiacs, immortalized Kumbhakarna through the Kumbham zodiac. This serves as a proof that it was Kumbhakarna who created Kumbham. The Western depiction of Kumbham as Aquarius is wrong, and it is really deplorable that many Indian astrologers are using the Western depiction. Hence, Kumbhakarna was one of the 12 Alvas of Vishnu. Vishnu created the 12 zodiacs, preserving the ancient history of Tamils. The zodiacs were arranged in space in the direction of movement of the sun in the stellar space. The sun took nearly 24,000 years for making one revolution. The first zodiac, Rishabham, that is, the Taurus, represents Shiva, the first god of humanity, who lived 20,000 years ago. The next zodiac, Mesha, that is, the Aries, represented Murugan, the second god, who lived during the deluge, which happened about 11,000 years ago. The next zodiac, the twin fish named as Meenam, that is, the Pisces, represented Ravana and his son Indra, meaning that they initiated the Pandya dynasty about 7,500 years ago. It is the fourth zodiac, Kumbham, that is, the Aquarius, which represented Kumbhakarna. Thus, the third and the fourth zodiac were created by Vishnu to depict the most important characters of Ramayana. The next 8 zodiacs represented the most important characters of Mahabharata, which happened about 5,100 years ago. Thus, the 12 zodiacs trace the history of man from the times of Shiva to that of Mahabharata, and astronomer Vishnu, the creator of the 12 zodiacs, lived about 4,000 years ago in Trichy, Tamil Nadu. The auspicious object Kumbham had made a huge impact in the lives of humanity. Kumbham is a symbol of fertility and prosperity. Indians are aware of Purna Kumbha welcome ceremony. When we welcome an important personality, we present Kumbham to him as a mark of respect. When we present Kumbham to him, we mean prosperity for him, and when he comes in with that Kumbham into our place, it is meant that he means prosperity to us. As a simplified form of this ritual, we keep our palms in the shape of Kumbham, by which we wish prosperity for the guest visitor to our place. Keeping the palms in the shape of Kumbham is called Kumbidu in Tamil, which means Kumbham Idu, that is, make Kumbham gesture. Not only that, Tamils also utter the word Vanakkam while they make the Kumbham gesture with their palms. We shall elaborate it further to understand its meaning and significance. I had already described what Kumbidu means. What is meant by Vanakkam? Is it proper to perform both while inviting our guests? Val plus Angu, Valangu, Vanangu, Vanakkam. Here, Val means well in English, and in fact this English word originated from Tamil Val. Angu means bend or bent. The word Anglish or anchor, etc. originated from Angu, meaning bend in Tamil. Hence, Vanangu means bend well. By bending at our hip well, we display that we respect the person in front of us.
Yes.
This kind of respect is still performed by the Chinese, Koreans, and the Japanese. They are still following this ancient Tamil custom while Tamils had abandoned it. This is because the Chinese and the Japanese had left ancient Lanka well before the times of Ramayana, and hence they could not pick up the Kumbam culture. However, Chinese and the Japanese are doing Kumbam gesture with their palms like the way the Tamils do after the spread of Buddhism in those places, and these are performed as part of Buddhist culture.
Appreciation.
Though Tamils abandoned the bending act showing respect, they replaced this physical gesture with a vocal gesture by uttering Vanakkam, which means I respect you. That means instead of doing it physically, they are meaning the same by uttering Vanakkam. However, while uttering Vanakkam, meaning I respect you, we are also making the physical gesture by keeping the palms in the shape of kumbam, called as Kumbidu gesture. This Kumbidu gesture means let prosperity accrue to you. Hence, this combination of physical and verbal gesture means I respect you, you shall be prosperous. This is the right way to welcome our guests, and that's how the Tamils are welcoming their guests to this day. Uttering Namaste is improper as it is supposed to be uttered only when greeting a Lama and not others. As a sidetrack, the English word welcome originated from Vanakkam. Vanakkam, Valakkam, welcome, welcome. Obviously, even the English word come should have originated from Vanakkam. From the discussion above, a great truth is emerging. Kumbidu culture, that is, using the palms to make a kumbam-like gesture as a style of inviting guests, originated after the times of Kumbhakarna only. Nobody in the world was aware of this gesture before Kumbhakarna, and hence nobody before him practiced it. If that is the case, how did people worship in the times of Murugan and in the times of Shiva? The pre-Kumbhakarna worship style was called Sankalpa. Sam plus Kalapam, Sankalapam, Sankalpa. Sam means together and Kalapam means mixing in Tamil. Merging our consciousness with the spirit of the gods or the forefathers was called Sankalpa. When we do this, we also place our demands to them. What is the physical gesture that accompanies Sankalpa? While performing Sankalpa, we used to keep our palms either on the belly or on the chest. But it should have originated as keeping our palms on the belly. How? As described already, man pleaded Sivalinga for granting offspring, and that was his only demand in those times. Hence, while pleading for granting offsprings, he would have also gestured the same by keeping his hands on the belly, as belly is the place the fetus grows. Quite a logical scenario, isn't it? That's how the very first worshipping style, that is, doing Sankalpa with the palms on the belly, developed. Much later on, that is, after the times of Shiva, this practice was unwittingly adopted to worshipping any god and demanding anything in general. Proving this fact, the Jews who left Lemuria following the deluge are still worshipping in Sankalpa style only. Jews are the descendants of Noah. In the temples that these Jews built at Gobekli Tepe in ancient Anatolia for remembering the flood victims, the same worship style was recorded on stone. To this very day, they are using the same style of worship which actually originated well before the times of Shiva. Islamic people also worship in this very same style till this date. Hence, the Kumbidu style of greeting or worship originated only after the times of Kumbhakarna, and it spread to various parts of the globe through the descendants of Kumbhakarna. By tracing the onset of this culture, we shall trace the history of the world. Thus, this Kumbidu style is a turning point in the history of mankind. We shall now understand what Kumbhabhishekam is. The process of consecration of a new statue or temple is called Kumbhabhishekam. A newly erected god statue is given power, that is life, by bathing in the sacred waters and is called Kumbhabhishekam. But having originated very long ago, today the Kumbhabhishekam is being done ceremoniously without really understanding the actual meaning. You would know that it is true at the end part of this video. What does Wikipedia says about Kumbhabhishekam? On the appointed day and auspicious time, the Kumbha is bathed with the charged and sanctified holy waters in the sacrificial part, and by mystic process, these pranic powers trickle down a silver wire and enter the deity installed inside the sanctum sanctorum of the temple. The deity, which was until then only a granite sculptured stone image, is believed to transform into a vibrant and vivid representation of the Deva with innate beatitude, grace, and grandeur. This is the current understanding, which is not correct. The first god of humanity is Shiva, and all the other gods, including Vishnu, evolved in the same tradition and are said to be the descendants of Shiva. The creation aspect of Shiva is represented by Shiva Lingam. Shiva Lingam represents Shiva Shakti. If all the other gods are philosophical descendants of Shiva, it actually means the descendants of Shiva Shakti. Hence, if a new sculpted image is brought to worship as a god, the ceremony is conducted as though this image is born of Shiva Shakti. This Shiva Shakti is represented by Kumbham. Based on the philosophical idea that all the gods originated by the union of Shiva and Shakti, the Kumbha is established ceremoniously, and by chanting mantra in front of fire, the embryo of the god is said to be conceived in it. Then, from the womb, that is the part of the Kumbha, a rope made of darubai connects the sculpted image situated in the sanctum sanctorum. It symbolizes the fetus in amniotic sac connected to its mother by an umbilical cord. It is through this rope, which plays the role of umbilical cord, that the granite image in the sanctum sanctorum is taking shape as God. The ultimate ceremony of the sculpted image being born as a god is symbolized by bathing the image with the water from the pot of the Kumbha. The meaning of the same is the image, which was developing as God, is finally born as complete God by bathing the image with the water from the Kumbha as though the amniotic sac broke. Thus, Kumbhabhishekam symbolizes the breaking of amniotic sac. Kumbha Abhishekam is Kumbhabhishekam. The word Abhishekam is a word of Tamil origin, like most words of Sanskrit. Abhi plus Akam, Abhiyakam, Abhisakam, Abhisaham, Abhishekam. Abhi literally means great, but contextually means here as sacred, and Akam means creation. Hence, Abhishekam, that is, bathing the god from the waters of the Kumbha pot, represents sacred creation, that is, the birth of the god, symbolizing the breakage of amniotic sac. This same procedure is followed in the consecration of Vaishnava temples also. That means the Vaishnavites unwittingly agree to the fact that Vishnu was born out of Shiva Shakti. Asivagam was the ancient and pre-Buddhist religion of India. Shiva was the very first god of Asivagam. Vishnu was a much later god in the Asivagam tradition, and he was born and attained nirvana about 4000 years ago. The Jewish Brahmins, after destroying Asivagam, created two new paths, one in the name of Shiva as Saivam and the other in the name of Vishnu as Vaishnavam, and reaped rich harvests by making these sects fight with each other. Not only that, they even spun outlandish stories that Vishnu was the very first god and even Shiva was created by Vishnu. However, the very consecration ceremony of Vishnu temples unwittingly acknowledges the fact that Vishnu was created out of Shiva Shakti. This is because the Brahmins did not understand the concept and significance of the consecration ceremony itself. Hence, Vishnu was a descendant of Shiva and not the other way around, as is projected by the Vaishnavite Jews.